Like it's an insane story. This is insane. The reason why we're wrapping it up with episode 8 is because I recall this very fascinating story, which is about the only time that Tom really ever feared for his life working in corrections at Haney Correctional Institute, or burned a little bit from this coffee. And then this prisoner, high as a kite, rushes them, and there is nowhere to go.
So I'm beautifully ridiculous, imperfect, no less. La da dee da, la da 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 dee da, la 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 dee dee da.
Hello, and welcome back to my channel, the Beautifully Ridiculous Podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Katie Campbell. This is episode 8. This is the final episode in season 1, and it's been a hot minute. And I have nothing to say about that other than imposter syndrome, fear, existential meltdowns, dread, all of it. And so, I'm not going to apologize for the fact that this is like a year and a half on. What is made for you is never going to go past you. And so I went to therapy. You should go to therapy. And my therapist says that I should probably finish the things that I start. And I shut up. And so I'm here finishing the things that I start. Oh, let me catch you up. I interviewed Tom, who's in his 80s and lives in Maple Ridge. I live on Vancouver Island. And I made friends with this gentleman, George. I met him in July of 2020, just after my dad died, the height of the pandemic. And he and I became fast friends, and I now consider him my family. Anyway, I am also writing a book. And George wanted to know about the book. And then I had mentioned that the woman in the book had spent some time incarcerated on the Lower Mainland. And George said, "Oh my goodness, well, you should meet my friend Tom and interview my friend Tom." And I said, "Why would I interview your friend Tom?" And George said, "Because he was the activities coordinator at Haney Institution." I said, "Well, what's Haney?" And he goes, "Well, that was the correctional institution in the 70s and 80s in Maple Ridge was Haney." And I went, "Oh." And so George arranged for us to go over to the mainland and interview his friend Tom. And I spent 3 or 4 hours with Tom. And this podcast is the culmination of that experience. It was so much fun. Tom is lovely. And the most interesting part, if you go back and listen to episode 1, I sort of go into detail about how odd and synchronistic the whole experience was, as I had never met this man. He's an absolute gem of a human being. But I remember walking into this house in Maple Ridge, never been to the house, I'd never met the man, and I felt this uncanny deja vu happening. And I realized that his house was the mirrored image of my childhood home. And that is unusual simply because it is a West Coast house that's got a very unusual layout and footprint to it. And I was like bowled over the amount of synchronicities of it. It was just weird and wonderful, and I enjoyed the whole experience. It has taken me a year and a half to get back to recording more of this podcast, and obviously now I'm on camera. My previous 7 episodes were just voice, and that took a lot of guts and glory and all the rest of it. It doesn't matter. Just give it your go, and what is meant for you will not go past you in this lifetime. And so we're here, and we're going to wrap up this episode 8. So I haven't actually listened to any of this footage in like a year and a half. And so I'm going to play it and record for you my reaction to our conversation, because I don't remember all that was said. It's been so long ago. We're sitting in his living room with vaulted ceilings, in my childhood living room, really, and just sitting on the edge of my seat, waiting for this story to wrap up. Like, it was just riveting. And I hope that you are equally as riveted by it.
Especially Native. We had a lot of Native kids.
I was going to ask you about that. Did you notice a disparity between...
Oh, it must have been close. It was over a quarter. We're all Native.
A quarter were Native?
Oh, huge. Huge. And we have...
Oh, my God.
And they were in there for incest and everything. Their uncles and their father would be sexually assaulting them. And, oh, man, the kid just... And when it came, he'd go and throw things or light fire to a ship or a boat or anyhow. And then through the court, I was ordered. This guy had to return to the reserve, you know, and they were all waiting for him. His uncle, and
They were waiting to abuse him when he got back.
yeah, abuse him again. That's what they were. So I don't know what finally happened. The kid, I was, because I was going to send him. I got him a job lined up in New Westminster, and a place he could share with this other guy in a room. Anyhow, I had to send him back to the reserve.
So you had set up a job for this native
We had
boy
a job
in New Westminster.
The guy needed stability. He was a good worker and fairly skilled.
So you were ordered to take him back to the reserve instead of having him go through the other sort of halfway house that you standard programming?
They were good. The main reason why they were good in a way was the authority thing was out of the way. And so they look out the window, there's traffic, so they're into that kind of thing. But as far as going into a workaday world, making their lunch, being there, getting the bus over to wherever, and that was difficult, really difficult. Like for some people, they didn't know money. That's, well, it's five, and two of them, they make one, so.
So they
really difficult to get the person ready. You say a workaday world, that's getting on a bus, paying fares, making you. That's a huge program. Wow. And a lot of guys leave me in jail. When my time's up, I'm out of here. Oh, it was.
Really?
The system looked after something in regards to, hey, this guy raped somebody, so he's a sex offender, is what. But would anybody talk to him about it? Taking this woman down and molesting her? Not only that, burning her with cigarettes, just so she would jump till she's so exhausted. The woman passes out, didn't even know what he was doing. The guy probably felt bad when you explain what he was saying, but it's his dependency on other things. But
you've seen some depravity in humans, haven't you?
Yeah.
What was it I was saying again in the opening credits about going to therapy? Everybody needs to go to therapy. Everybody. Oh my God. Some of the things that Tom has borne witness to, has been told, has seen, has heard. I live in a little ivory white tower. I mean, it's so obvious to me that I live in a little white ivory tower. Oh my word.
So, like Essendale, the NDP, that was a terrible, terrible thing for society to close that thing. So they had a farm there. The people would go to work, grow carrots. The carrots and potatoes went to all these different institutions. Boy, close all them institutions up. So here we are. People sleep on the streets and steal.
Something different, isn't it? Yeah. What was it I was saying in my last episode 7 about closing Riverview? I think it was the worst decision that anybody's ever made, closing it, and all of these systems and previous episodes of the Borstal system and the farming that they had and what have you. And so we've now collectively just decided, this is me going on a tangent, obviously, that we're not going to give anybody skills. We're just going to throw them up and lock them away, throw away the key. It's a bit horrendous. It's a little bit horrendous, the whole thing. This next portion is not for the faint of heart, and it is not for children. Viewer discretion is absolutely advised. Please make sure that you don't have anybody listening that probably shouldn't hear it. And if it's too much for you, for heaven's sakes, turn it off.
The person who was a pedophile
is the lowest on the rung.
Well, he should not live. That's where they're at. They had a better decree of how people should treat each other. And if that's what he did to children, he deserved death penalty. And they all get in on kick, stab, whatever. The end of a broom, all sharpened up, boom, boom, boom. As many holes as they put them.
You know, Willie Pickton died earlier this year. It's 2024, and I think that's sort of how Willie also left the planet. Again, I'm not sure that anybody is crying any spent tears over Willie frickin' Pickton.
No, in your book, the inmates have their own code. And molestation, child rape, and those people are crucified. They're going to get, and they do, they die. I mean, I've got several guys end up in the hospital. They put a broom right up.
Oh my word!
You know, I mean, because that's what he, that's how he, So they gave him, the word went around. And one guy said he got what he was coming. The inmate told me. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's a different jail. It's its own society.
Yes.
It's not just a building. Those people in there make it what it is. And it's brutal.
Very, very brutal.
Unforgiving and final. Like they say that guy's done. He is done. He'll get stabbed going to the kitchen and whatever. Because there's areas where they all know you go here and down stairwells, nobody can see from the bottom of the top.
But that never. Like, do you get PTSD now? Do you sleep now? Or does any of that come up for you now that you're retired and in your 80s? Or is that sort of in the past and you've been able to compartmentalize that?
Well, now I think there is no law. The ability of people or judges or lawyers to change things verbally. There's no that's what the inmates. There's no consequences. In those days, in the 50s and 60s, you did that, Willoughby Olson. There's a consequence of that, and they knew that. They thought that was good. When those things started disappearing, it left these guys in limbo. Do that. They didn't even get any kicks out of it. And that thing, they would do things tragically because there were no consequences. And they complain more than I do, but I think our society is just on a downhill slide. No respect. All the little things you could put in there that were all there. People have to say "sir" to a teacher. Good morning, sir. Whatever. So. And I don't know if it'll ever change and come back. Our generation's on the way out, so who'll take it over? The only thing that's holding things together is sports figures, whether it be hockey, football, golf, or whatever. The young generation still resonate on these people as role models. Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy or whatever. So, which is good because the generations need a figurehead. They need somebody, And in Britain, it's the Queen and all that stuff.
Right. I always found it so fascinating. I love and respect Tom. I think he's a wonderful individual. He's in his 80s. And so he grew up really and came of age and existed in the height of the patriarchy, where being a cis white hetero male didn't close many doors for you, and there's a lot of privilege in that. Do I think that society should be more respectful? Yeah, I do. Do I think that maybe Tom's gender and color helped him to have an easier go? than people of color or a lower socioeconomic status. I don't know. There's a lot there to reflect upon, and there's a lot there to say. Is he wise beyond his years? Of course. He's lived 80 some odd years old. And so there's this weird nostalgia of wanting it to go back to the good old days where people respected you. Yeah. If you were cis, white, and hetero and male, they respected you. Otherwise, you were sort of tossed to the wolves. That was generally most people's experience. I'm not negating what Tom is saying. I also think it's interesting that he used sports analogies, as I don't think Tiger Woods is really all that much of a role model, having, been an adulterer on his wife. I digress.
So if that's not there, you got a society is just drifting and no direction. Yeah. Well, like families, everybody needs a little direction, even me.
Was there any one particular incident that made you almost quit or rethink it, or anything that stopped you in your tracks and you thought, oh, maybe not?
Here it is. This is, yeah, on the edge of my seat. Oh my goodness. Get a drink. Go pee. I don't know. Just get ready. It's a big deal.
You what?
During your career,
Yeah.
Was there any one incident that made you stop and think, I don't want to do this, or made you really re-examine?
Really close. And I'll give you the incident. I got a letter from the guy who did it. This guy was out on a 3-day pass.
Sure.
And he went and robbed this place. And he was high. And as it worked out, the local policeman right there caught him. And,
of course.
And he took him into the jail in New Westminster it was, and they phoned me. I was at home. Phoned him, say, hey, got this guy in Westminster, He tried to rob this, they did, and all, he's high as a kite on whatever. And I said, okay. So I went down and seen the guy in Ocala.
In Ocala.
And so I talked to him and all that kind of stuff. And I told him that his free pass is over.
Right.
He'll be going back into the mainstream of the jail. And he's got another 30 days added to his sentence because he was down the last 6 months or whatever. 30 days of the sentence. So, and all that kind of stuff. And you understand and the way they interview. And he's in these cells in the, what do they call it, Ocala. And they had the basement type thing. And that's
Right.
where the jail cells are down in the bottom there. And to get out, you have to go and ring this buzzer. And the staff member up there comes down the stairs and opens this gate to let you out or in. So anyhow, I finished, I sent the guy and everything else. And the staff member in the little base where they were, one went back into the office, and the other guy took the guy down to the cell where you take him down. So I'm talking to this guy, and I hear a yell, and I look around, and here's the guy outside of his cell, and the staff member who was taking him there is backing up, and this guy's got a knife. I'd say all filed up. I don't know. It was maybe 10 inches long, and a bunch of tape on the end of it.
Fine. Thank you, Pat.
And
Thank you very much.
so this staff member, and I'm down in this basement. I can't get to the gate to get out. That's where they were going to go to get. Anyhow, so the guy didn't want to go in his cell, so the staff taken up. So
Tom's wife was playing hostess with the mostess and giving us tea. So you're hearing us intersperse with tea and goodies in the middle of this story. So let's recap. So Tom gets a phone call from Ocala. Tom works at Haney. Ocala is a separate institution, but Tom sort of works in both. And he gets a phone call from Ocala saying that one of his residents is this dude in corrections. He had a 3-day weekend pass and he went out. And in the middle of being out for this 3-day weekend pass, he got high and then robbed a bank and was caught and then taken back to Ocala. So Tom is asked to meet them at Ocala Penitentiary. And somehow this guy has a 10-inch friggin' knife on him. I don't know how that got past the guards, but it did.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
The two staff who were looking after that jail down there backed up into the office, and I was one of them. I was the third guy. So I backed up. They had a desk there. I backed up. This guy came up and picked up the coffee urn like that, right over his head. And the door or gate, it was like a Dutch door. There was the bottom one, the top, and the top one had kind of a glass thing, but it was open. This guy picked up this coffee and he rushed over and he threw it in. And the three of us are standing there. It went right over my head, smashed the wall, came down, hit me in the ass on there.
Because you're a tall man. You're well over 6 feet tall.
Yeah, but a little bit of coffee spilled on it. But when he threw that in, he came in with this thing. So he threw that thing in at the coffee urn, and then came right in there, three of us.
So there's 2 guards and Tom. There's three personnel, and they're backed into a room. And from what I can recall, the room had no escape. There was no other door. There was no other windows. It was just a basement where they go and the prisoners are taken down, and obviously they're processed, and then they go through processing and they're taken to wherever jail cell they're going to go. So for some strange reason, this guy who is high on drugs and he's got a knife that wasn't found, and now he's backed 2 guards and Tom into this little room with no way out, and he's taken a huge coffee urn, which I can only say probably has between 4 and 8 liters of boiling hot liquid in it. And this guy, high as a kite, has picked up the coffee urn over his head and thrown it into the room at Tom and his 2 personnel. You can imagine 4 liters of boiling hot liquid, and it's going to smash the back wall and drip down. And so they got sort of the backs of their feet and some of their backs were burned a little bit from this coffee. And then this prisoner, high as a kite, rushes them, and there is nowhere to go.
On the wall, there was these billy clubs. I reached over and I snapped that one off, was bracketed in, I ripped it off. It had a screw in this side. And this guy came right over with his thing, right at this one staff member. The staff member bit over the desk with this guy over.
So Tom has reached onto the wall where apparently there's a billy club. There's a bunch of billy clubs. I don't know if you know what a billy club is. It's a baton. So they've got a baton that's sort of just stuck on the wall in a mechanism, and you can rip it off. And a billy club is literally a 6 to 10 inch baton that you can use to, well, if you hit somebody with them, you could potentially really kill them. And that's the only thing that Tom is able to grab a hold of. They have no weapons. They have nothing, and they're being rushed by someone who is completely high as a kite and has a propensity for violence.
Anyhow, the other staff member grabbed him, and it was a sweat. So I took his billy cup and I hit this guy on the head. Hit that guy in the head. He went back, came back again. Boom, boom. I hit that guy, and I hit that guy. A couple of times he went down knees only to jump up and almost take the staff member's head off. He's in the doorway. We could not get out of this glass cubicle.
And he's got all that adrenaline, so he's formidable.
So I hit him, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 times.
Can you imagine being face to face with somebody who is out of their right mind, and they just keep coming at you with violence, and you've got nothing but a little billy club, and you just continually have to hit this person like you're fighting for your life. Tom and his personnel, two guards, prison guards, were fighting for their life. Keeping in mind that Tom is not little, well over 6 feet tall. He was a bodybuilder. That's part of the reason why he was so popular at Haney Correctional, is because he got a lot of the prisons into bodybuilding. That's how he motivated these men to actually do their rehabilitation programs, is teaching them how to bodybuild. So Tom is at this point in the prime of his life, very large man, very well built, and he's literally fighting for his life against a prisoner who is out of his mind, high as a kite, and has nothing to lose. The prisoner has nothing to lose, while Tom has two little kids at home. Like, it's an insane story. This is insane.
And finally, he slipped the guy, coffee here, all that kind. The kid slipped down, kind of bumped his thing, and by the time, he got wrapped over. The other two guys and me, we were on him, and boom, hold him down, eggs spread, standing. I was standing right in his arm. My heels were digging right in the poor boy, and he was yelling at us and all that. But we had his leg tendon. Anyhow, long story short, it happened so quick.
Yeah.
You don't even think what you're doing. And
Instinct.
for the adrenaline just to take over, that guy. But it's all supposed to be where you take a guy along, you open the key and he walks. That's what the manual shows you. But if that inmate changes the game, like he did, he come on that coffee bat. Now, I don't know how he got that thing, but it was a spoon and it had been filed, rubbed on concrete until it was just a spear. You stick that in you, you're dead.
Right.
Yeah.
So the three of you managed to take him down, and then I'm assuming someone came to your rescue, or what happened?
Yeah,
then?
we hit the staff grabbed the phone. And
Right.
They sent other guys down, and they came down with armor on.
Yeah.
We're in there, but I didn't realize it. But the kid went to hospital. I put 80 stitches in his head. They put 80 stitches, they told me, in his head. I had that billy club. It's lead.
Yeah.
With that rubber.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what it is.
Yeah, I know a billy
And
club.
it's heavy. And I was like that, 2 hands. And he'd come at me, I just hit that thing, you go down, he'd come right up. Holy fuck. But that was it for him. He was, after that, never came back to jail.
I would assume not. But that was the incident where you really, it threw you back for a minute.
So that could have been the end of me, of the other two guys.
Yeah.
It was fortunate, in a way, that he stopped and he picked up the coffee thing. Well, right away, you're in a different mode. Holy, hey, this is for real.
Yeah.
And the coffee come in there. And I snapped that thing off. I thought, well, here we go. And so so you're a different person like me at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I went right after him. And, you right after me. So.
What a story, Tom. My goodness. So after that, and he had 80 stitches put in his head, because obviously you were self-defense, right? So what was your thought? That was the thought process of, maybe I'm done. That made you stop for a second? Yeah.
Yeah, it is, as the only reason I got, when they were taken up to the cell and up there, and I walked out to be released, and I look, and the staff's coming down. Here's this guy, and he's got this. I'm standing there, and so I thought, well, I just waited, and he came out. But he would seem to be under the eye of somebody. I'm not sure. Maybe he wasn't 100%. Anyhow, so I'm there, and so I'm standing in the middle of this corridor, and the cell's here, and the staff wickets over. Anyhow, so he came at me with his knife, And so I waited and waited until he was just within maybe a foot. And I leaped back. I was about 6 feet from the bars. And I leaped back away from him. And my back hit the bars. And as soon as I hit the bars, I was up a little bit. I just came off there running sideways like that into the office, billy club, boom.
Wow.
But I'll never forget that guy coming, and I'm by myself on that, waiting to get out of that unit, and there's nowhere I could go. And he apologized. He wrote me a letter after.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Because you said he had been high
Oh
on
yeah, I
drugs.
still got a letter. Yeah.
Wow.
Name and everything. He wrote me a letter, and he was saying that he was high and all that stuff. And I thought, well, okay, I could have been dead. I wouldn't have done nothing.
What an incredible story, Tom. Like,
I'm just speechless as like I'm amazed. I'm amazed he got through it. I'm amazed that there are people who do these types of jobs because I wouldn't have it in me, which is why I'm, a content creator and a musician, I guess.
Hand touches mine. We dance as we tango in the night. We move, we find the rhythm stare in those eyes. As we hear Christmas lights, we swear as we tango in
How did you get into this?
how
What
did I get?
started it?
My father was a lawyer.
Yeah, you told me
But
that a couple of times.
He was a civil litigator. He only did one criminal case of any significance. And it was a huge drug bust with a sailboat that was sailed from Thailand into Nootka Sound.
Yeah.
And so I had always wanted to write the book with him, but he died. And I decided I would forge ahead anyway. And so I interviewed his client that I found in the United States 40 years on, and she spent time in Ocala in the cat house and what have you. And so when I
Yeah.
told George, I said, oh, my dad's client, I've interviewed her. She spent time at Ocala and Twin Maples. He goes, oh, my friend Tom. My friend Tom was the warden there. And I went, what? And so it was this weird synchronistic event that I just sort of felt providential that, he knew you. And he goes, I can get you an interview with Tom if you want. I said, what?
Yeah.
So that was really
You've
special.
got a lot of patience.
I do? Oh, why
I
is
think
that?
so. You always seem to be waiting and listening and smiling all the time. Like your appearance is, you're always you look pleasant.
Oh, thank you.
Well, no, I'm not
Interesting.
that-
No, I understand what you're saying. No,
I'm just saying that,
I'm interested in your
So
story.
you encourage dialogue,
Thank you.
You say something, yeah. You're not authoritarian or all that kind of stuff.
I'm just thrilled for your time. I just think
Yeah.
it's the neatest thing. I've never done this before. As I said to George, it's a huge leap of faith because I'm not employed right now.
But you know, as a young woman, that people are people.
Yeah.
And to criticize them, like for the inmates and or going to do different work programs at the women's jail, and what would you think? A guy and a woman, they've had no sex for 2 years,
Right?
and you think they're not going to take that up? So the people,
Common sense.
yeah,
Common
you
sense.
say, well, hey, it's like lighting a fire, and if it burns that far, there'll be a big problem, and you just let it burn.
Right.
Anyhow, and I would tell people in my position, say, hey, and then the girl got pregnant
Oh dear.
in jail.
In jail by a
She's
guard or an
doing-
inmate?
She's doing 2 or 3 years. Hey,
By a guard or an inmate?
by an inmate.
By an inmate.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But
And she was happy. She was so happy to be pregnant. But the warden of there, Pat Drew, was a friend of mine, but and then she had the baby
Mhm.
in the jail.
yeah, because there was a section for that in the women's
Yeah,
that they
and
could
then-
have
and
children.
so somebody got arrested, for a certain thing. Well, she goes in there, and it could accommodate the kid and whatever. So she had the baby in there, and it was quite a novice thing. All the other women in there, all boom, she was their kid,
Yeah.
that kid born.
Yeah.
Hey, we should name her this. No, it was just a huge thing. But it's a human part of it, people in there for murder, and everybody's for the kid.
Yeah, putting the kid first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat.
Now, somebody like almost got fired for that because the authoritarian then said, "Oh, the hell did that happen?
Right?
Who's
Like,
responsible for that?
she didn't come in
that's
here
a
pregnant,
man.
but she's leaving
I
pregnant.
want to report. You get fired, whatever."
So you were a unit commander? Is that what you were at Haney? What was your title when you retired? What were you?
Well, I started out, they changed it because they had all like army. I was just a guard.
Right.
Then I went to be a sergeant.
Right.
And even with them 3 stripes and all. Then the next warden came in, got rid of all those uniforms. Every one of us got a gray suit, shoes, all the whole thing, and so we walked around. And the inmates thought it was really neat. They said, how do they call it? You're a sheep in different clothing now. Like, I'm hiding behind this gray stuff. Where I used to be out with flashes all over,
Right.
gold things and all that stuff. Yeah, so they were right, and they would say, that suit didn't make you or take it away. You are who you are, and that was good in a way because a lot of people, staff, had trouble with that.
What do you mean?
Wanted to be the, hey, they wanted that authority.
Right.
They want to be able to say, stop, whatever. And so they split those things to security and the other part. And slowly over time, the security ended up right out the window.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the end, when you retired, what was your title? What would you have been called?
I was a director.
You were a director.
But I was we started things like community corrections, a guy by the name of Lloyd Hopper. And we went and set that up. And the whole program was focused around when a guy comes into jail and he's doing, say, 2 years or whatever he's doing, 4 years, and he's got, so why are you leaving him in jail? He's a first offender.
Right.
He's got a job. He's got a family. He's got 2 kids and everything, but he's a hypochondriac. He's stealing. He's stealing from anybody. Fills his shirts up and they check him.
Kleptomaniac.
And he's got 2 kids and a wife and all that kind of stuff. So, and this guy's going. The judge is mad. 3rd time in there, you do 2 years in jail. So that guy's away. Wait a minute. You got a wife and you got kids and all. So we started looking at that. We hired people to review people who were going to Ocala. That was the main jail. And they'd sit down with the guy, look at the file, second offense, first one, whatever. Married, yeah, whatever. And this one guy said, hey, I can't go to jail. I'm making payments on my car. And the hell if I'm going to lose that goddamn car. And so he put pressure on. And hey, how can we keep this guy from losing his car? He's making payments. And so worked out a deal where he could go stay in this place in Marpole. The warden lived in this big house. We took it over. We put inmates in there so they could go to work.
Oh, and then like a halfway house situation.
Look after their family.
Oh,
the
wow.
family could visit anytime they wanted. They went home. After a while, on weekends, you don't need them big jars and everything.
Tom was, I don't know, he was an innovator and sort of ahead of his time with rehabilitation and trying to get people to, grow and use their incarceration as a means to, as a vehicle to grow. Like, how, you know, you don't have to waste your time in here. Jails are notoriously schools. Big penitentiaries are. That's one of the reasons why in America they're privatized. It's big business. The criminal enterprises are big business. And if you go to a penitentiary for any length of time, they're schools. All the inmates do, the younger ones, is just learn how to be better criminals from the lifers. And so you really don't want anybody to be incarcerated for any length of time, which is, again, why I keep banging and flogging the dead horse of saying people who are traumatized and addicted don't belong in a penitentiary. They might have some criminal issues that they've had to do in order to maintain their drug habit, but they're actually not criminals. They're traumatized people who require therapy, and they're not going to get therapy incarcerated. That's not what incarcerating people is for.
No, you don't need the big bars. No, it's very different from.
I mean, the whole thing is to try to get people connected again. In one case, the wife came in because I was warden in the office. We were on just off Kingsway on Green Street. That was our office there, right by Central Park. Anyhow, the wife came in and said, "Don't let him out. Don't ever let that guy out. He's this." And then you find out that she's a prostitute. He was trying to get part of her money. She had a regular clientele.
And
he was
trying
done
to
up the bloody work.
Oh,
And he wouldn't leave and everything else. So he had no problem. So got him into a halfway house and do a job. And then him and this other guy rented this apartment. That was it. He was away, never came back. And she was happy. She was rid of him, and she continued with her. And she had her area where she did her. She calls it tricks. So everyone's happy, I guess.
It was lovely meeting you. Thank you so much.
All right, we're just going to skip through this.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting thing anybody could do, is to try and understand or be involved in human relationships.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how people react with each other and why. Yeah.
I love it. I think this
I
is.
do too. I took courses at Simon Fraser for quite a while. And
What courses?
It was just what I call it, just a whole, it's like walking into a hall and you open the doors and Jesus, huge hall here. That's human relation. You see people, you open that door, you don't know what's in there.
No, it's very surprising who people are. And then we also have those personas that we put on.
Yeah.
So you don't know who's
important.
who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, get the covers.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think
I'm glad you dropped by to fish information.
I love it. It's going to be great.
It's more like figuring out which way you're going.
I don't know where I'm going. I've got a whole lot of directions going. I don't know if George told you I'm a musician too, so I've got a few songs that I've put out, etc., etc. I just like being creative. That's what I'm doing.
George has got a quality that so many people wrestle with.
What's that?
He's got patience.
Yeah, he does that.
He has patience.
Yeah.
And, for people to watch something or look, like somebody goes up fishing, the guy's got patience. He's casting, and my wife and I go fishing, and she, "I can't believe you stand there all day." Oh, I said, "No, I'll be home for lunch." And then she, "What do you got?" I said, "Oh, I got one like that, but I'll let it go." "You've been out there all day." I said, "Yeah, it's great. It says it's raining." I said, "I got raincoat."
We're fine. We're having a good time.
Fishing.
It's like a meditation, you know?
Yeah, anyhow, you got to be whoever you are.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
You do.
What are your, if you could give a young person who's looking for a career in corrections, what advice could or would you give them?
Going into corrections.
Yeah.
Well, the hardest thing for anybody going into corrections would be to clarify the difference between what the authorities want in regards to the penalty or whatever, what they want, and this person here who really only wants a good life.
Right.
How do you get that so that
Intersect.
person can achieve and start feeling good about themselves? Look in the mirror and say, not in the mirror, then throw something at it.
I think I love that the most about Tom, without any formal training, because he if you go back to the first or second episode, Tom talks about how he literally went up to a bunch of foremen that were building Haney Correctional Institute and asked for a job because he was marrying his wife. And his future father-in-law said, well, how are you going to support her? And he didn't have a job. So he literally went over and asked for a job, and the jail wasn't even built yet. But he had this amazing insight into the human plight and human psyche without any formal psychological training. And he decided that he was going to help individual inmates on a one-on-one basis and meet them where they were at, because every single person that you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about, and every single person that you meet has hopes and dreams. And it's so fascinating to me that without any formal training, way back in the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s, that Tom figured that out. How wise, how amazing, what an incredible individual. I thank all of you for being here. This was a really fun project. I don't know why it took me so long to finish it, but therapy helps.
Yeah.
So how do you get that person to do that? The first quality would be that person would want to do what you're doing, to communicate with somebody
Yeah.
and to get to understand where they're coming from. The natives say you have to walk in his moccasins
Right.
for 3 long days.
Okay.
Look out through his eyes
Right.
to see the world. So that's the story. But we don't have patience to do that because we're a society of immediate gratification.
And materialism
You know,
and all the
if we
rest
want
of it.
food, or we want sex, but, it's an immediate gratification society. There's no build up and really enjoy the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's whatever it is.
That's true.
And that's the society you're in.
Yes, very much so. And trying to parent that in a digital age where it's immediate gratification all of the time. And it's like, oh.
But after going through that business and seeing how our society is changing, I sit back and say, you can't stop it.
No.
So this is all part of the changes, and what's going to be kept and left is up to our grandkids and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of things are good. Just using them as an example, are pretty good. But it seems hard for them to make a long-range plan. It seems to me that the family thing is eroding because young people like yourself are not interested in children, and and society is based on the next generation coming up.
Mm-hmm.
That sustains the thing, because guys like me, our ideas were great for a time, but we need different ideas. We need different events. We need change.
Yeah.
Progress.
And
Well,
the
change,
kids like you bring change.
change is the only constant. It's such a cliche, but there it is. Change is the only constant. It continues to progress and to evolve every day.
I mean, life has changed. We all go through it, as we age or try things or experiment. Anyhow, so I'm passing things over to you
Thank
with
you.
information or whatever, and you just run with it. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have any other stories that you want to do before we wrap up? Anything else that comes to
I
mind?
wouldn't call them stories. I'd reframe that to events.
Events.
Yeah.
Events.
No, you live a lifetime. I remember once, and I was working for this company up on Alwood Lake,
Okay.
and then we moved around a bit. And anyhow, on this one occasion, they had a boom in there, and those guys were taking logs, and I walked along this boom, and I got good balance to the end. And there was quite a bit of like snow, and at the end where the other boom went like that. And so I stepped on that snow and went to go over there. There was no snow.
Oh.
I went straight down, and it was in December. I went straight, December 20th, I went down, and I looked up and I pulled my, because it was very slushy on the top, I pulled up and I came up, and I got a hold of the log to get myself out. And as I was struggling to do that, my body, hypothermia was setting in.
Yeah.
I was so cold.
Such a shock.
There was a person down there, and they came running along, and that saved my, my life.
Yes.
I was trying to get up on the log out of the boom, and my hands, I could hardly hold on. This guy, friend of mine now, he pulled me up onto that thing and dragged me along the boom, and then whipped my clothes off.
Yes.
Put his jacket on me.
My gosh. What were you doing out there?
Eh?
You were working at what? What were you doing out there?
I was doing at Alwood Lake. We were putting a boom across that lake to stop the driftwood, because it drifts down the lake, and the southern side of the lake is huge beaches for all the people who come up there.
Okay.
So to stop that from happening, floating up down, we built a boom across halfway down the lake, so all that driftwood stays up there.
And this is when you were in corrections, you
Yeah.
were doing this? Wow. Oh my gosh. And you, holy crow. So this, you didn't know this man? He just pulled you out of the lake and then you became friends?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Tom.
Crazy.
He did. Why he was there, I'm not sure.
Wow.
God.
Why I
I don't
stepped
know.
on, but you walk and you see snow, and there's a boom there, and I walk on the other lake. Are you brain dead to step you can't see? See, I took it for granted. There's something there. Don't take things for granted, ever.
No. Oh my goodness.
A lesson I learned.
The hard way. Well,
That goes for people or anything.
Craziness. Well, I thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, I wish you success with whatever you're doing.
Well, see,
do you think you've got patience or not?
Do I think I have
Yeah.
patience? Yes, I have.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
what I'm
more
saying.
patience
That's what
than.
you're.
Yeah.
Because when you look at me all the time, you look, and sometimes your eyes are not piercing, and then the other times they're quite soft.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, you see that wrinkle in your eye, and you
Yeah.
see, So you body language pretty good.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm just throwing this together, and as I said to George, throwing my hat in the ring. I'm going to make a podcast, which is essentially a radio show. So I'll take these couple of hours that we've sat here, and I'll try and chunk them into like 20 or 30-minute increments, and then I'll do some narration through it. So the whole episode will be between 30 and 45 minutes, and then I'll put them together as a series of radio shows and put it out on YouTube and see what happens.
But for the whole thing, for me, it's one side of it, someone trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one side of that business. The other side, being invited to a wedding or getting a postcard from a guy who's doing 4 years because he killed his brother. And you get a postcard from the chief with their baby. He's got his woman there.
I could cry.
They got, thanks on the bottom. That's the only word. So little things like that nourish you.
Yes, they
And you
do.
say, yeah,
Did you hear what he said? Little things like that nourish you. Oh, he's just a national treasure.
As you said before, that ripple effect of just changing that one moment for a person down on their luck, a person who's feeling cornered, and you give them a small act of kindness, and the ripple effect of that.
yeah.
4 years later, 10 years later, 14 years later, you have no idea the ripple effect
That's
of that
right.
kindness to
And
turn
it
that day around.
manifests itself sometimes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it takes
But
a special
That's
person.
the society we live in. I enjoy it. And, you know, you get up in the morning and look in the mirror and smile and say, let's get at it, whatever it is.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
I've always had, I have a woodshed out there.
Yeah.
And they're bringing in regulations. I may get cut off pretty quick, but I burn wood, so I have a wood heater down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that all the time. And it's not just the money thing, because, you know, we can pay the gas bill, no problem, but it creates a different atmosphere. Our kids
Yeah.
come in, like, where do they go down? And they're sitting, and my son-in-law just came, they were here for a few days,
Yeah.
and he takes right over. I hear him out in the woodshed, come back to the wheelbarrow, he's splitting up wood, and bing, bing, I stay out of the basement, and he comes up, and I say, geez, Rick, I'm going to hire you full-time. As long as the food's good, I'll be here. He loves all that pissing around, you know.
Nice.
So little things like that in regards to, you have that kind of, like, I talk to some people and say, I've got a wood burning stove. What? You produce carbons? Yeah, and they go wild. So, and I say, well, without carbons, we got no trees or grass. You know, so what the hell do you want? But now carbons are a bad thing.
I can't please everybody, right? You just can't please them
Well,
all.
that's what I say. Society moves along, even if it's driving itself into a big hole. It just keeps going.
Yes,
Oh my God.
that is very
But I'm
true.
not chasing. I figure what the heck.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. But the biggest thing, of course, in anybody's life, not just the social effects in your brain, but whatever your grandparents, great grandparents, or your parents gave you, the health, your body, that's a gift
Yes.
It is.
you got to look after.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
you do.
a lot of people do, a lot of people don't. In the business I was doing, even now, we attend a church, and some people are not very healthy, and they don't look after themselves. And you know, if you don't look after yourself, it's like the money investment business or your wife, you got to look after it. Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
Well, I'm all done.
You're what?
I said, I'm all done.
You're
I'm
all
thinking
done.
of new things I can say. But that's it.
It's all good.
So I'm beautifully ridiculous, imperfect.